we've spent on the aftermath of poverty costs us close to 20 billion Namibian dollars with regards to crime, with regards to healthcare, with regards to school dropouts. We waste money on poverty, to say, right? But if we implement a universal basic income grant, which costs only 10 billion, half of what we already spend right now.
Tjipura, thank you so much for coming on Africa Speak. So we often hear the phrase, Africa is rich as a continent, but Africans themselves are very poor. How much is that is true, and what are some of the misconceptions about poverty in Namibia and Africa in general?
It is true, the phrase is true that Africa is rich. Africa is rich in minerals, Africa is rich in its resources. Also, we are sort of like the fuel to the rest of the world, because even during the times of colonialism, most of the resources that built the West or that built countries in other continents were those from Africa. So Africa is rich, but the unfortunate situation, the unfortunate part is that we ourselves, who are sort of like the ones with the resources and the minerals, we are the ones that are suffering the most.
Yeah, that's quite true. Okay, let's start with the basics. What is, when you speak of the basic income grant, what is the basic income grant, and why is it important at this time at the moment?
The basic income grant is a cash grant of 500 Namibian dollars per person from the age of 0 to 59. This grant is an economic enabler to individuals, right? Because currently we're experiencing people that don't have money per se, right? They don't have the financial resources or financial means to meet their daily and basic needs and wants. So in the Namibian context is currently, as we know, as much as we do have grants that are in place, these grants are failing, right? And the word basic income grant per se is a universal grant for each and every Namibian, right? Because it's a basic grant. It's not an old age grant, it's not a child grant, it's not a marginalized and orphanage grant, but it's a basic income grant for each and every citizen from the age of, it depends on what particular age range you choose, but our suggestion, our proposal to government is from the age of 0 to 59.
Okay, just before you reach the pension age.
Yes, just before you reach the pension age.
So why is the pension grant currently being considered necessary for Namibians at this point in time, and what societal issues does it really aim to address?
So you said the pension grant or the basic?
No, the basic income. The basic income grant.
The basic income grant currently is we are calling for government to implement this grant because we see, the high rates of income inequality in our country. We are the second most unequal country, in terms of living standards or income distribution, the whole world, right? So we are following South Africa. After South Africa, we are the ones following, and so this is, a great concern. This raises, an alarming issue, and then also we are struggling with poverty. Right, it's not just poverty in terms of food; it's poverty in terms of multidimensional poverty, right? Where people have, the lack of access to education, lack of access to just the basic needs, hospitals, sanitary, and as much as an individual has food to eat, they might not have, all the other needs.
Okay, that's actually true. Okay, so and then the idea of actually free money for everyone sounds really like a great idea for everybody, for a country at large. But how exactly does the big benefits individuals, families, and the broader economy as well as a country?
Yeah. So first of all, we need to understand the current status quo, right? Currently, most people are saying, no, why are you giving them money? Why are you giving people free money, right? Teach someone how to fish, right? But as much as people know how to fish, they need the capital to fish, right? You teach me how to fish, but how do I go from my house to the river to go fish? What resources will I use to go fish? Because I need a fishing line, or I need, a cooler box to keep my fish in. how will I get those things, right, is through money. That's why at the Basic Income Gain Coalition, we're suggesting or we're recommending government to give money to people in order for, people to be enabled to use this money. Because as much as they know how to fish, as much as they know how to go to school, do they have the means and resources, right? So for an individual, as much as I know how to do ABCD, as much as I have skills and expertise, I need financial resources to be able to put this into play, to be able to manifest this, right? And as an economy, this is an economic stimulus, right? Because when people have money to spend, this means that they have buying power, right? So the demand for goods and services now, will be there. People will have the demand because they have the money, right? And local businesses and, entrepreneurs will be able to have, these customers, or the buying power will be there for them, right? And also, this is where we do away with the thing of, poverty, right? Because these people are empowered to lift themselves out of poverty.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So you guys carried out a pilot in Otjivero. You provided, it provided interesting results from the pilot that you did. So can you just share maybe some of the key findings from that initiative and how it reflects to the potential of the basic income grant in the parts of Namibia, in all parts of Namibia?
So in 2009, 2008, 2009, the pilot study took place. This is now, Otjivero was seen as one of the poorest settlements in Namibia, right? With high malnutrition, high unemployment, high poverty in general, right? And school dropouts, like initially. As much as people had jobs at the farms, those, what they were getting paid wasn't enough. Or interestingly enough, we found out that people were getting paid food, they were given food as a form of salary. Right, so all they could do is eat, but not do anything else in terms of health, in terms of any other thing. They couldn't move around. So after the grant was implemented, people were receiving $100 per person every month. So from those of the age of 0 to 59. So people started, being economically active, right? The school dropouts, kids started going back to school because they only had a junior primary, a primary school. So after primary, these kids had to go to Gobabes or a Vertvlei, which is far from Otjivero, right? So children were just forced to stay at home after primary school simply because I can't go to school. I don't have the financial means. Yeah. So after we implemented, or after the pilot, BIG was implemented, kids could, could go to school. And one of the greatest examples of, sort of like the testimonies of BIG were people like Julia Nekwaya, right, who was a student at the University of Namibia, and she graduated from journalism, right? She was part of the pilot project.
Really?
Her mother started a bakery from the money that she was receiving from the pilot project, right? And this bakery till today exists. Even if you go to Otjivero now, you find the bakery there, right? There was a lady who started a shoe making or a shoe fixing, business with that money, right? So people could, could be economically active. There was a post office, in their time frame also that was opened simply because people had money. So developments had started, right, in that particular, settlement. And then also people started, going to the clinics because they could afford the $4 or the $3 or the $2, right, that they were getting. Not now just the food that they were getting from the farmers, but money that could allow them to do any other thing as well. Yeah.
So you can really see the power that money has.
That money has, yes.
And then the money was just cycling around the community.
Yes, exactly.
And improving the economy of the
community.
Wow.
Yes.
So how might the basic income grant actually change the daily lives of Namibians, especially those in low-income and rural areas? And what could be the ripple effect on education, health, and employment?
Yeah. So looking back at the Otjivero pilot, project, we've seen that individually people were empowered because we talk about poverty stress, right? Stress different from just being poor, right? You can just even tell, even like an individual yourself, like, right, when you don't have money, you don't have money to move around, you don't have kept money to go from point A to B, you are stressed, right? And it becomes really annoying, the fact that you can't do anything, right? So people are discouraged. But when you start giving people this money, this economic, empowerment and all of those things, you will be able to, see that, this person can move from point A to B. Kids in Otjivero could go from primary school to go to high school, right? Be it in Khobabas or Witflay, whatever closest, area. So individually, you would see that these people are empowered, right? But in terms of employment also, human capital, as much as one is educated or skilled or trained, the person needs money before they get a job, right? We see that there are students currently who are living in places like Havana, right, who are living, or some of them who have went back to the village simply because they can't, before they get a job, they can't do anything technically because there's no form of income, because most of them are first generation graduates, they've come from poor families, but they've graduated, and they've made it through in life. But how would they get now from graduating to getting a job actually? These people need the resources, right? So something like a basic income grant can give them the ability to move around, right? As much as they have access to information and certain opportunities, how would they, be able to take those, that information and use it, right? To sort of like, further their skills, or to sort of like look for jobs and move around, right? The aspect of the money is just so that people can move around, not to make them rich, not just to give them that capability to move around.
That's actually
yes.
Okay, sorry for cutting you off actually.
Yeah.
So that's actually true, because even after graduation, you need to look for a job, you need to print the CVs, you need to go for interviews, and sometimes you are even required to travel to the north or to travel other town to go for those interviews. So it really be helpful. So let's really, I just want to get like the realistic of the whole idea, How feasible is it to roll out the nationwide basic income grant? What are the biggest challenges from the funding to the logistics as well?
Okay, so what we're advising the government is, first of all, to incorporate the current existing small grants, right, into the BIG. We look at the child grant, right, and we look at how the children are getting 350, right? But not every child is getting. As much as the child needs the grant, there are particular criteria and requirements, and just the back and forth logistics of it. Because when we were doing activations for our first protest in June, we were going from location to location, right? So when we're in Ochomise, they were telling us a story about how they go to the regional council's office or the constituency councilor's office to request for these grants, right? People have to prove how poor they are. So I have to go and prove to you that, no, I really need this money, right? I really need, this 350 for my child. Mind me, it's now the 2-3 kids. What if just one kid gets, and 350 for the whole month for that whole family might not work, right? And then we see how also the kind of existing grants don't meet the people it needs to meet, right? So in terms of the logistics of it, we just incorporate the current grants and make it a universal grant to give it to everyone, right? People just go, you register yourself, there's no particular requirement that you need, because it's a basic income grant, right, for each and everyone, whether rich, poor, wealthy, whatever. You don't want to, you don't get it. That's your choice, right? Yes. So in terms of the financing of it also, we talk about how government needs to, reduce the illicit funds, or the money that flows out of the country from, multinationals, in just reforming the tax policies, right? But we see that, one of our presidential candidates, Itula, is talking about decreasing the corporate tax. Already we are losing money, but they still want to decrease the corporate tax, right? So how do we ensure that our people are protected from that money, right? Is to sort of increase those taxes and reform them so that we can fund things like the basic income grant, right? Currently, the finances that are going to the current existing grants would cover at least 60% of it, right? And what we what we spend on the effects of poverty, what we spend on the aftermaths of poverty, costs us close to 20 billion Namibian dollars with regards to crime, with regards to healthcare, with regards to school dropouts. We waste the money on poverty, to say, right? But if we implement a universal basic income grant, which costs only 10 billion, half of what we already spend right now, those costs can be covered. The money is there, right, in terms of, the financing of it. In terms of the practicality of it, it's still into research and all of that, right? We are seeing how can we, draw out this money. Is it through the post office? Is it through cell phone banking? Is it through like the current existing one where the pensioners are getting money from a machine, from the car, or how are we going to do it, right? And also, just a quick example, Chomise, when they're receiving the pension grant, you see people sitting there selling things, right? Because these people have money, they can buy these things. Now just imagine nationwide, someone from the age of 0 to 59, right? It's technically everyone getting now money, right? How will these things change the economy, right? How will these things into practicality? What type of world are we going to live in, right? Because we see the world we're living in right now with the pension grant. We see how poverty has, has decreased in that age range, right? Now, can we not see that and use it and put it into practical with, the basic income grant in Namibia right now? Yes.
So you spoke of 10 billion, that it will cost about 10 billion. Is that per month or per year?
That's annually, sorry.
Annually?
Yes, that's annual. The 10 billion is annually. First, we looked at, the age of 0 to 60, but we had to cut down now, those who are receiving the current grants as well, those who are receiving the disability grants, and it came down to 10 billion, right? The first 13 million we had, we drew out into research and into like the articles. It was before now, we had to cut down like, the disabilities grant, so it came down to 10 billion.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And how far have you guys gone with the proposal to the government, and what have been the government's responses to this proposal?
Lately we had a meeting on the 4th of September with the Ministry of Gender, Social Welfare and Poverty Education, Ms. Doreen Sioga, right? And we brought this proposal. So this followed after now the petitions we gave out. So we did discuss, we did show them the economics of it. We did show them the in terms of the financing of it and how much it costs currently, the 20 billion it costs us to spend on poverty, and how the current existing grants are failing, right? Even in their own reports, they show us exactly how they are failing. They show us exactly how they fail to meet the people they are supposed to meet. So and then after the meeting, she did say that we need further consultation. We need the Ministry of Finance. Well, we have said or like requested to meet up with them, but maybe because of the logistics and because it's an election year and just there's a lot going on. We haven't yet met with the ministry directly, right? But with the Ministry of Gender we've sat down. And also recently they've released that they're going to give a house or to say they're going to change the Harambe grant to a BIG, but that is not a BIG. A BIG or a basic income grant is a grant for everyone. You see, they should call it maybe the Harambe grant or something, but that isn't what a BIG is in context. So it's a little bit of confusing. Even people were calling us that has the grant been, or like has the campaign been successful? But that's not what we're advocating for. We're advocating for an unconditional universal basic income grant for everyone. Now the housing grant also, we've got the Harambe grant, we've got a call from someone saying, from Hawkanas, they were saying, no, why aren't we getting, right? Because they're targeting specific areas and specific towns. Why aren't we getting, because we're also experiencing poverty, you see, that's the limitation we're talking about, right? Even the current basic income grant they want already has started limitations, because now they're limiting certain people or certain areas, because now people have to prove themselves again that I come to our town, we are poor or we are struggling, which is very wrong in principle.
That's very true. That's very true. And then we have critics as well that actually argue that the basic income grant will make people lazy, will not be successful and all that. So what are your responses on that as well?
Our responses are give people a chance, right? Give them the independence, because as much as we have human rights, independence in terms of independence, we have freedom in terms of freedom of speech. Economic freedom does not entirely exist in Namibia because we're still living in poverty. There's still income inequality, but a basic income grant will give people the independence, the freedom to choose what they want, right? Not give them food like the food grant or the food the drowsy food that they're getting, but give them the money so they can decide what they're doing with it. There are so many examples. The Otjivero pilot study, right? People were getting money. They did something with the money, right? Businesses were started, right? You see in other countries like the UK, people get grants, people get money, and they use this money, right? Because when you're saying it will make people lazy, then you are sort of like this, how can I say it? You're looking down on people to say, if I give you something, you can't use it, right? So let us give people a chance. As much as we are giving politicians a chance to make decisions for us, let us give them a chance to decide what they want with their resources, with their money, because this money is going to come from our resources, from our taxes initially. So it belongs to us to say, per se, right? So give people a chance, let them do what they want with the money, and then we see moving forward.
That's right. So some countries have also explored similar concept, but with mixed results. So how will Namibia's approach to the basic income grant differ to other countries, and what can we learn from their experiences as well?
First of all, let us say Namibia isn't like the other countries, right? Our economic situations are extremely different from others, right? Whatever they've experienced is according to their economic, whatever drives their situations. But what drives us right now is the lack of finances, the lack of resources, right? Because we see that as much as I spoke about multidimensional poverty earlier, as much as someone does not have food, they need something else. As much as they have food, they need something else, right? As much as their income can cover the food aspect of it, they need health, they need sanitary, they need all the other things, right? So in the Namibian context, it is going to work, right? In practice, it is going to work. We had the pilot study. It showed how it's going to work, because it's an urgent call. It's an urgent call for Namibia, for the basic income grant to be implemented, because we need it. Because it has been shown in the pilot study, and it's being shown right now that we need to give people money so that the economy can sort of circulate. We need to give people money so that businesses can start, because we're struggling with unemployment. Unemployment is not the government should give people jobs, government jobs, whatever. Economies need to be built, markets need to be established. How do we establish markets without money? Right? How do we establish markets without funding businesses? How do we establish markets? How do we create employment? Because I saw in the manifesto talking about employment creation, economic empowerment. How do we do that without money? Because the economy is money, right? Yeah.
So how will the basic income grant influence Namibia's economic growth, and particularly in sectors like agriculture and entrepreneurship and innovation as well?
Let us look at what is currently happening again, right? Currently, people have ideas. People have, business ideas. They want to start something. Students want to start businesses. Even those who are uneducated want to do something with their lives, right? But they just don't have the capital to start. As much as, again, you say, teach people how to fish. Yes, you taught them how to fish. Now what, right? In terms of agriculture, we see that our current existing grants are on and off grants, right? This year, government is giving out grants. It only give grants to some people. You see, there's this sort of discriminatory aspect of it, right? Not in terms of choice, not that the government chooses to discriminate, but just the system itself as discriminating, right? Now, if we give grants that are unconditional, if we give grants that don't have specific requirements, and then you trust the people with the money, right? Agricultural projects can, develop, right? People can start, their farms, even in Otjivero. People at least have the money to do something, right? To start gardens, to do ABCD, right? Now, in terms of the whole economy at large, as I said, the basic income grant is an economic stimulus, right? Because money is circulating, different things will start, right? Even if you check at, when you're starting a new town, things start building, you start a shop, you start a post office, you start a what. That's how it will start initially, right? And also, this economic stimulus is an injection in the economy, right? It's not an extraction. You're not extracting something. You are giving something, right? You are injecting something within the economy itself, right? And you obviously expect results from it, right? Results like people being able to afford, goods and services, right? These things, sort of like also curb the issue of inflation, right? Inflation is not by choice. We don't choose inflation. Inflation is, the factors of demand and supply that affect it. As much as people say that, the BIG would cause inflation, it would, right? But there are different types of inflation, right? There's also, what is it called? There's inflation and then there's deflation, right? Prices decreasing, which is also a bad thing. So inflation in itself is not a bad thing. As much as prices will increase over the years, obviously, because the world is changing, the world is moving, right? So this will also curb inflation because people will be able to afford, the inflated goods and services, right? And also in terms of employment also, people will be able to, to achieve whatever they want to achieve, and this will contribute in turn to the economy as well. Kids will be able to go to school, employment will, will be created, they'll be paying taxes. Also, this money people are receiving, it's not like they're receiving it and they aren't paying taxes from what they are buying. They are going to pay the taxes. Government revenue will increase as well. So why don't we just implement it, and then we see moving forward, that this particular effect is not just for the people, also it's for the government itself.
Yeah, that's quite true. And do you think this is actually also going to kind of contribute in reducing the wealth gap?
Yes,
in the
exactly.
Namibian economy?
Yes, definitely. That's like one of our main aims, in the basic income grant. It's to decrease the gap between the rich and the poor, right? Because we are getting money from the rich who are having the money to those who don't have the money, right? Meaning that you're going to close this gap, because the current existing gap is there is money within our economy, but the money is imbalanced. The money is just on one side of the economy, or one side of the classes, which is the rich who have the money. But we need to give the money to the poor as well, so that we can, balance the equation. Yes.
Okay. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions about the basic income grant, and how do you address this when engaging with the public?
The biggest misconceptions is to make people lazy. Why are we giving people money, right? Why are we giving people free money? And I explained it before. You are giving them the empowerment. You are giving them the ability to do something with their lives, right? And then the other misconception is, or the other misunderstanding that we have is, why is it to everyone? Why are we giving it to, to the rich also, right? The rich can choose not to take it, right? And also the rich can pay it, through a taxing system, whatever, right? So it's not just giving people money. There's a reason why you're giving them money, right? You want them to do something with the money. The rich can choose to take it or not. Even if you are poor, or even if you are middle income, you don't see the need to, to receive this money, you have a choice. Don't receive the money, right? Yes.
Okay. So what is the next big step for the basic income grant, and how close are we to seeing this really become a reality? How long has this been going on as well, and what can the public actually maybe do to support?
So it's been 20 years now that the campaign has started, or the call for basic income has started. Yes, 20 years, 2 decades.
Sure.
So the fight has been a long way. This was introduced when NAMTEX suggested that President Obama, not Obama, but President Pohamba, in order for us to cut poverty in Namibia, we need a basic income grant. So this was envisioned by people who were there a long time ago, because they saw the need for a basic income grant. 20 years after, things have gotten worse. So our next step is to prove how we need this thing, why we need this thing. In terms of consultations now, we have met with the Ministry of Gender, who is, to say, the main anchor of this whole grant. Also, who is the financer or the financier for this grant is the Ministry of Finance, right? So our next step is to further consult with government, further show them the need of this thing through, research, through various other consultations as well. As much as we have, as much as it seems like enough, because you can see what's going on. You can see the malnutrition, you can see the poverty, right? You can see the unemployment and all of that, right? And for the public to support us is just to call on government, right? Call on government, demand for this thing, because it's your right, number one, according to Article 95. Government has the responsibility to ensure that social welfare programs are implemented, right? Now, what social welfare program is this? This social welfare program will enable people to get health care, will enable people to get education, because as much as education is free, the children need school uniform, the children need money to get from home to the school, right? And one last thing is to also, people should make government understand, or as much as they understand there's a form of economic will, and I'm not economic will, but political will, and to say a level of ignorance that exists right now. As much as now they're calling the Harambe grant a basic income grant, which is extremely confusing to people as well. So it is not a basic income grant. Government is not implementing a basic income grant. There's just the 600 that or the Harambe food they were getting, that's turned into money now, that's being given to people who they think deserve the money, right? Yeah.
Okay. So to my knowledge, the basic income grant was chaired by, is it Honorable Kameta?
Yes, Kameta, yes.
Yeah, before then he was made the Minister of Poverty Eradication. And then so what happened that he did not implement the project? Like what happened there?
Yeah, so it's once again political will, right? As much as you see the benefit of something, there's a lot of politics attached to it, right? There's a lot of convincing that is attached to it. There's a lot of you need a different type of thinking, or a different type of mindset for you to keep on with a campaign like this, because now you have to convince literally everyone, because money is involved. Money is one of the very critical things, right, when it comes to governance. So money is involved. So I don't know what discouraged him, but it should be political will per se, right? Yeah. And also the Ministry of Poverty Education was established because of BIG. So he became minister so that he could implement this thing. But because of political will, I don't know what else, perhaps it wasn't done. So to say BIG is the mother of the Ministry of Poverty, to say, right? Because it was suggested before and it's being suggested again. So let us see maybe where the government will take it. But the current existing administration wants to call it a BIG, which is now the Harambe food. Now we don't know exactly what they want, or exactly in terms of them adhering to us. Maybe that is how they're adhering to us, but it's not how we want it, because it should be unconditional, right? People should receive it no matter what.
But why do you think the government is actually hesitant in implementing this? Will this kind of negatively impact them, or why are they hesitant?
I think also it's the aspect of fear that people will not depend on government as much as they do right now. Because currently the poor are dependent on government. You see people going to regional councillors' office, constituency councillors' office, back and forth, requesting for these funds, right? Now, I think when a country is empowered, it becomes dangerous to government side, because people now, have the ability to decide for themselves. But also, as a democratic country, that would be a good thing for us, because it's a democracy. People can choose what they want, right? The power lies in the hands of the people. Maybe they're scared to lose power on their side as government, because also poverty is a form of slavery, in our current time, right? When people are poor, you can tell them whatever you want them to hear, and they will hear it, right? Also looking at the elections right now, the games they are playing, giving people food, promising people things so that they can get the votes. Maybe that's the fear, that if people have the ability to choose for themselves, they won't have as much power as they have right now. But initially, it will be a good thing for all of us, right? They won't have to sit in offices and struggling, how do we deal with poverty? How do we curb this thing? things will be a little bit easier for all of us. Yes.
That's quite true. So looking forward, what will Namibia look like maybe in 10 years if the BIG is actually implemented successfully? Like, just paint us a picture. If possible.
So Namibia will be a country, or one of the first countries, to implement a universal basic income grade in the world, right? We will obviously decrease our income inequality gap. It will be decreased immensely because now living standards will improve, right? We have a world where living standards will improve, where people can afford their basic needs and wants. Not entirely, right? But at least the loopholes that exist currently will be, closed, right? And then also, we'll have a world where, local businesses can start and they can remain alive. As much as someone can start a business, in order for it to remain alive, they need the customers, they need the money, right? Now, we'll have a world where people in the small towns, in the rural areas, can go from point A to B, right? Because this 500 can go a long way. Because it's 5 people in a house, each receiving 500, right? How much would that be? 1,000, 2,500, right? Per household. They can afford the food at least. They can afford certain things at least, right? The kids can go to school, right? And also we have a world where the economy will be better, right? We have a world where even we don't need to take as much debts as we do right now to curb certain issues, because government takes loans to sort of like solve certain problems that can be solved by BIG, right? We'll have a world where even the economy itself, even in terms of GDP, it will contribute to GDP immensely because people are spending, people have buying power, right? Also in terms of government revenue will increase because people have money, they can pay the VAT, right? That that they should pay, right? And then also in terms of human capital, our human capital will be developed. People will have the ability to be able to print out CVs, be able to move around, right? First generation graduates can have at least an income to drive them from graduating to getting a job, right? Because you don't just graduate and the next day you have a job. There's a certain time period. Even the rich kids have to wait for a while in order for them to get a job, right? So we'll have a world where even our human capital, people will stop stressing from poverty, right? I even believe that drug usage or alcohol consumption will decrease, because even if you check in Otjivero, there are so many bars, but at some point 2 to 3 of them or 4 of them closed down because people stopped spending time there, right? They had other things to do. When someone has money, they have other things to do, trust me, right? They have a lot to do because they have money. Now they can think, what am I going to do with this money, right? We have a world where people are empowered economically, not just economically also, but socially. People will be happy to say, right? Because even where I stay, like in my location, we have kids who live on breadcrumbs. $1 breadcrumbs that come from a bakery. They buy these breadcrumbs that mix with sugar, and they have to feed on this the whole day. We will have kids who will have something to eat. We're not saying they should eat pizza every day, but at least a decent meal and not breadcrumbs, because that shows a very weird ideology. Breadcrumbs coming from bread to the floor. It means that whatever comes from the rich is what we get. And that's a very bad picture as a country. And also, it will make whatever administration is in power by next year or by the next 2 years, they will look good to the rest of the world.
Very successful.
Even the UN suggested we implement a basic income grant. How will we look to other countries, right? We will look really good.
It's true. I think it will come out like a top story.
Like a top story.
Like green hydrogen. It will even go top than that.
Even Russia said they're going to pay for a basic income grant, or like they're going to fund a basic income grant. Right? Just imagine if other countries are seeing what we are doing as a campaign, or like the news articles on the BIG and saying, no, we would fund it. If you guys implement it, we're going to help you fund the basic income grant.
Really?
Now just imagine. Yes.
How big that is.
How big that would
will really is. I see. Okay, I've actually exhausted my questions, but is there anything else that I left behind that you really want to tackle that I maybe did not touch on?
I think also just to re-explain again is what Dr. Itula said about BIG, right, about how costly it will be. Sure, there's miscalculation. He was giving numbers back and forth, but those numbers, I know, they were not the ones. Because what BIG is, we are not going to give the whole country money. Not the whole 3 million people times 500 that he was saying. Right? It's people who need the money. Right? People who, let's say, from the age of 0 to 59, not those who are also 60 something, right? Because they are getting the the old pension grant, which is working, which is doing its job very well, right? Now, there are also people who are getting the disability grant, right? Which is obviously they will not be included here simply because that grant is their right, right? That 1% they're getting is their right, right? Because they don't have the ability to move from point A to B like everyone else, right? Yeah. So what I want to say is basic income grant is not just the money. There's a lot behind it. There's a lot of empowerment behind it. There's a lot of enabling behind it. People will be now enabled, and also there's a lot of economics to it in terms of businesses starting up. It will be a really nice world for us, right? Not entirely nice, but at least things will change, right? Things will change. Namibia will be a better place to say, and yeah,
that's actually very true, because we even have cases of the pensioners that are being attacked by their kids. They are younger ones because of the money that they are receiving, and then you have unemployed people in the house, so you are fighting for the money.
So this 1.6K is for the child, the grandchild, and the great-grandchild. Just imagine.
It's true. And then the pensioners themselves, they don't even use their own money anymore, because they can't
enjoy their pension fund because the kids are there.
They are unemployed people in their house and kids that are not being taken care of.
Now if you give them the 500, just imagine 10 kids, 500. Just imagine. That's a different world.
That's a really different world. So thank you so much, Tjipura, for coming on Africa Speak, and we really also call upon we hope that the big Namibia actually become implemented, because we are really seeing how big and how the change that it will actually also bring.
Yeah, definitely.
So, thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.